Hello and welcome to this series of video guides introducing the new accreditation standards and processes. First, an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of lands, seas and waters throughout Australia and pay respect to elders past, present and future. We recognise that the health and social and emotional well-being of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are grounded in continued connection to culture, country, language and community, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. This series of video guides provides an introduction to the suite of documents comprising the guidelines for accreditation of speech pathology degree programs. These documents outline Speech Pathology Australia's role in the accreditation of speech pathology degree programs in Australia. They also detail the processes to follow and accreditation standards to address when applying for and undergoing accreditation. These documents supersede all previous accreditation standards and accreditation guideline documentation. The documents are intended for universities developing a new speech pathology degree program, universities applying to be accredited for the first time, universities applying for re-accreditation, and Speech Pathology Australia accreditors. There are 3 brief document walkthroughs pertaining to each of parts 1, 2, and 3 documents. The intention of each of these brief video walkthroughs is to highlight key components of each document for both universities and accreditors, which are further elaborated on in 2 extended video guides relating to preparation for accreditation and accreditor review of submissions. Before we begin a walkthrough to part 1, it's important to recognise that the revised accreditation process has both similarities with and differences from the previous process. For example, universities are still expected to teach students about all aspects of communication and swallowing, with the addition of hearing and cognition. And we note that multimodal communication is now captured within the broader description of communication and its related areas of practice. Robust practice education opportunities are still required for students, who can be assessed using Compass or other alternatives. However, there are new requirements for placement contexts. There is now an increased focus on the range of roles speech pathologists undertake, and the importance of these roles extending beyond individuals to include families and communities. There is a renewed focus on teaching of culturally safe and responsive practice throughout a program, and in keeping with the increased focus in the professional standards on interprofessional collaborative practice and reflective practice, these are also key criteria to be addressed within the new standards. Whilst this is not an exhaustive list of similarities and differences, it emphasises some key points which we will elaborate on further within these video guides. This brief walkthrough relates to Part 1, Regulation, Standards and Procedures. Accreditation classifications are outlined on pages 9 to 10. Speech Pathology Australia's accreditation classification system is based on the requirements of NASRAP. The classifications reflect a university program's compliance with the accreditation standards. Classification pathways available to individual programs are dependent upon their current accreditation classification. These pathways are outlined on pages 10 to 12. On this slide is an example of a new program's pathway, beginning with qualifying status. After being granted provisional classification, a program can then move towards full accreditation or other alternatives. The roles and responsibilities of the accreditation panel are further detailed in Appendix 1, pages 35 to 36. Briefly, where one program only is being accredited, there will be a chair, a panel member, and a Speech Pathology Australia moderator. Where 2 programs are being accredited, the panel will include an additional chair for the second program. You'll find that the same 3 accreditation standards of governance, students, and curriculum still apply within the new accreditation process. Under governance, universities must confirm they have established governance procedures for the speech pathology program that ensure development and delivery of sustainable, high-quality education for students that enables them to graduate with the competencies required for entry to the speech pathology profession in Australia. Within the second standard, students, universities need to demonstrate transparent and equitable processes in relation to recruitment, enrolment, and support for all students throughout the program. For the third standard, curriculum, universities must demonstrate that their curriculum content and student assessments cover communication and swallowing in speech pathology across the lifespan and provide evidence of how the professional standards for speech pathologists in Australia are addressed and assessed. Each standard has several criteria, The accreditation criteria that universities must address to meet each of the 3 accreditation standards are summarised on pages 13 to 16. However, you are directed to the detailed explanation of each criterion, which is provided in Part 2 Evidence Guide. These criteria will be mentioned further in the other accreditation video guides. The principles which govern the accreditation process are on pages 16 to 17. Speech Pathology Australia is committed to ensuring that the accreditation of university programs is undertaken in a fair, transparent and equitable manner. Speech Pathology Australia also aims to support innovation and best practice in the design and delivery of programs. Subsequently, the accreditation of university programs is guided by the following principles. Firstly, moderated program evaluation, whereby accreditation ensures that accredited university programs have met the accreditation standards. This is achieved through a moderated evaluation of each university program using the same accreditation standards and accreditation processes for every university program undergoing accreditation. Second is flexibility. Speech Pathology Australia's accreditation standards are sufficiently flexible to allow for the development of diverse and distinctive degree programs. Speech Pathology Australia does not seek to prescribe inputs or inclusions of speech pathology degree programs by way of hours of study, delivery of specified subjects units, or pedagogy. Thirdly, collaboration. Accreditation, while a regulatory process, is carried out with recognition that it is a collaborative process between Speech Pathology Australia and universities. Next is quality improvement. The Speech Pathology Australia accreditation process encourages and facilitates a continuous quality improvement approach. Universities receive formative and summative feedback during the formal accreditation process. Additionally, Speech Pathology Australia requires the university to review and self-report the program's continuing compliance with the accreditation standards throughout the accreditation term. The last principle is outcomes focused. Under this principle, the accreditation standards assess a university program in terms of its governance, students, and curriculum. The criteria relating to curriculum require a holistic evaluation with a focus on how the university program ensures their students are ready to enter the profession by the conclusion of the program. The accreditation cycle has been stepped through more comprehensively in the new Part 1. Pages 17 to 26 detail the steps within 4 colour-coded phases of the accreditation procedure. Accreditation notification, program accreditation including the desk audit of documents and the site visit, accreditation outcome, and finally, maintenance of accreditation. Universities and accreditors are directed to pages 37 to 41 for information about requirements for the site visit, an important part of the accreditation process phase 3. To assist universities, a suggested template for correspondence with site visit meeting participants is included on pages 42 to 43. The appeals process and fees are outlined on pages 26 to 29. It's important to note that notification of the outcome of an accreditation process will not occur until after the site visit, once accreditors have completed their review of any information that arises from site visit discussions. To ensure a smooth and efficient accreditation process, suggested timelines are included in Appendix 5, page 44. These are stepped out in alignment with the colour-coded phases of the accreditation cycle and provide universities and accreditors with key steps in the process. The remainder of Part 1, pages 45 to 53, is dedicated to detailing the responsibilities of key stakeholders in the accreditation process: the university, Speech Pathology Australia Professional Standards Team, Accreditation Panel, Speech Pathology Australia Board of Directors, and the Speech Pathology Australia Chief Executive Officer or Delegate. The glossary provided on pages 30 to 32 to ensure a shared understanding of terms used throughout the accreditation documents, parts 1 to 3. Please also refer to the other accreditation video guides available.